Hey, you guys. Welcome to another Life with Magdalena. We decided to do open Q&As today. And my two buds are with me. My girl Nella here. She's a Jack Russell rescue. And this is my other best bud, Charlie, down here. You're going to be seeing some of them showing up. So we're doing Q&As today. Open Q&As was basically whatever you like to ask us. Talk about supplements, diet for hormones. Share with us your wins, questions you might be having, challenges you are facing, whatever is coming up for you. Let's get going. I hope things have settled down for you after Thanksgiving, and you are off, and you're done with all your shopping for Black Friday and all the good stuff, and hopefully going into the end of the year with a lot of poise and breathing exercises. And I just want to also share that, going this time of year into the whole end of the year holidays, for a lot of people, it's a very stressful time. I think for a lot of us, it's, it's a cause for celebration and family get-togethers, but not everybody has family. Not everybody has good relationships with their families. Some people can't get together with their families, and so I just want to say that it's very normal to be feeling a little bit out of sorts, and I just want to acknowledge that, and that creates even more reason to really take care of yourself this time of the year. And if you are going to a family gathering and there's gonna be some pushback on whatever you're doing, whether it's how you're eating, your lifestyle choices and options and such. We've got a great article for you. If you go to our blog, it's called "You Don't Need to Apologize at a Dinner Table." We share it typically before Thanksgiving, and I think it's helped a lot of people just to navigate the waters on, what to say and what to do when you are finding yourself either not your dietary choices not being taken seriously, or sometimes you're being outright ridiculed. And hopefully people are just curious about what you're doing. And, one of the things I wrote in the article is that you're going to get the best results when you're going to be the walking example of really good health, where people come to you and say, what have you been doing that you look so amazing? So that is something that is, it's, I think, the most inspiring element, right? So just as we're waiting for questions to come in, I'm going to just maybe address a few things that we often get questions about, that you guys email us about. And so the chances are you might be wondering about that as well. A lot of times people ask us, when do I start supplements, and what about my diet, and which one do I start first? And so my answer to this is that you're always going to start off first with trying to dial in your diet as much as you can. That's not quite possible for everyone, not right away, for a variety of reasons, whether it's because you are in a relationship and the other party is not supportive. You might have kids who might not be wanting to eat this way yet, right? And so it could be budgetary reasons, could be logistical reasons where you are currently, access to good quality food might not be available. So whatever is your reason, I think the intention should be to always be starting off with food. And I've got a couple of my books, Cooking for Hormone Balance and Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, two cookbooks that are based on a diet that really helps to balance your hormones by lowering inflammation, flooding your body and your cells with all the good nutrients. We're working with foods that are very specifically tailored to helping your whole endocrine system produce and metabolize and excrete hormones in the best way possible, right? So, and men can eat that diet too, by the way. So that's not this is a common question we get. So your man, if you're in a if you have a male partner, is not gonna grow boobs while eating this diet, promise you. In fact, a lot of women have been telling us that ever since they've been eating our diet, from the cookbooks, and the partner, out of no choice, or sometimes because of a choice and wanting to support the partner, will report a lot of really great changes, including sleeping better, having a lot better sex drive, losing weight, and so a lot of really great, less headaches. We've had that before, right? So generally, just quite a lot of really positive changes. So let's start with a few questions. Jen, do you want to pop that one about chaseberry? Is it okay to take your chaseberry vitamins for fibroids? So the chaseberry supplement that we have in the store is just chaseberry and black cohosh. And yes, absolutely. In fact, fibroids are the result of estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance, there's two types of estrogen dominance. The first type is the balance of estradiol to progesterone. Estradiol is the predominant, more aggressive type of estrogen that also not just you producing it in menopause and perimenopause, you start producing less of it, but it's also the other problem with estradiol is also in that form of estrogen that can come from synthetic products, like, for example, synthetic perfumes, BPAs. It converts to estradiol, and you cannot discern it from, like, when you do testing, it's not going to show you whether it's synthetic or whether it's natively produced. So that's one type of estrogen dominance, and chaseberry is a really wonderful way to replenish your progesterone levels in most natural ways. I always use the example that in Germany, chaseberry is actually used by mainstream medicine, and is covered by insurance. So don't be pissed off. It's kind of, in Germany, like, even homeopathy is covered by insurance there. So it's pretty mainstream, which is pretty amazing. So chaseberry definitely, and then for fibroids, and then the other thing is, if you're the other thing you want to consider, if for anyone with fibroids, is the other type of estrogen dominance, which I call the type 2 estrogen dominance, and is the one that the way you break down those estrogens to clean out dirty estrogens is not the most favorable way. So in that case, chaseberry is not going to help you, okay? Because chaseberry is going to help you with the type 1, is going to elevate progesterone levels, which is good. So if your fibroids are growing because you're deficient in progesterone, then our chaseberry supplement is going to help you. If you are getting fibroids because you are metabolizing estrogen to too many dirty estrogens, then chaseberry alone is not going to help. It's not going to hurt you, but it's not going to help as such. And then you want to consider something else, which is basically our estrogen reset kit. And it's a kit that contains 3 different supplements: DIM, calcium D-glucarate, and Broca Power. And it helps you to fully metabolize estrogen in the liver, supporting the liver in doing so. So how do you know which one you have? Well, you can test through things like Dutch. But if you don't have, let's say, the funds to test, don't worry about it. Sarah, if somebody's asking, how do you know which one you have? So good question. So you know it from having tested. You can do, my favorite form of testing will be doing Dutch. It's a urine test, but also through saliva testing. You can also will show you, saliva is not my favorite form of testing, because saliva is not going to show you how you're breaking down those estrogens. It's going to show you 3 different types of estrogens. It gets quite complex. I don't think I want to discuss this today, but because I want to cover other questions, but it's the metabolism of estrogen is not covered in saliva. So your urine test, Dutch, might be the best way to determine that. The other thing is, if you don't have the funds to test or time to test, then the other thing to do is to start off. My preferred way is always to start off with progesterone first, and correcting progesterone within a month of doing either chaseberry or progesterone oil. We have progesterone cream, and see whether your symptoms start improving. If they don't, then start working on how you metabolize estrogen. That's going to be the second type of estrogen dominance that you may address. And by the way, for those of you who are maybe new to this, fibroids is just one of the symptoms of estrogen dominance. There's a lot of other symptoms, things like, for example, any kind of period of irregularities. So like super heavy periods, scanty periods, irregular periods, very painful periods, PMS, migraines, fibrocystic breast, benign lumps on the breasts, where you store fat. So like, for example, women who exercise a lot and just can't lose the fat and cellulite around the hips and thighs, that's very indicative of estrogen dominance. Migraines that are cyclical around your cycle. So typically it's like when you ovulate and when you're just before getting your period. So those are some of the things that, are all in the umbrella of estrogen dominance, which is a big part of the work that we do here at Magdalena at Hormones Balance. But also very addressable, like I always say that estrogen dominance is way easier to address and reverse as compared to, for example, the HPA axis, or what's called adrenal fatigue, right? Which requires a lot more interventions, not just diet, supplements, but also lifestyle changes, which most people have a real struggle, going to sleep early, giving up alcohol, caffeinated drinks, and so on, right? So way easier. And I think, one of the big reasons why you do want to address estrogen dominance very proactively, and especially at the early stages, like, when that fiber has just been found, when when the lump has just been found as benign, right? Where you are losing hair because of estrogen dominance, or you're having these migraines, right? This is where you want to address this much earlier. Why? Because estrogen dominance that's present for a long time can lead to estrogenic cancers. And so that causes DNA damage. The DNA damage can cause growth of cancer cells. And so estrogenic cancers will be things like your breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, thyroid cancer, and prostate cancer in men, and lung cancer in women who are non-smokers. So as you can see, there's quite a number of them. All right, just one other question that we have, and that is Kelly's asking, is chase tree and chase berry the same thing? So it's not the same thing, but it's is the berry that's going to be used in the extractions. And they call it a chase tree because it is a bush, it's a shrub. But it's the cherry, the berry that's used for medicine, but it's used interchangeably. But it's the berry that is the medicine. Yes, and it's also known, the other word that is used oftentimes is vitex, right? So, which is also the Latin name for chasteberry, vitex. Okay, let me just pick another, give me a second, Jen. Let me just pick something from Instagram here. Excuse me. So we have a question about progesterone, doing hormone therapy, and I like the oil better than the pills. I have a question with progest oil. I need 100 milligrams and the bottle says 30 milligrams. How do I know which one to take daily? So it depends on what so always remember that topical, you always want to go higher because there's going to be a loss of progesterone because it's transdermal is not comparable. The dosage is not comparable to pills. So I'm not sure what your question is, whether you're taking 100 milligrams orally right now. So this is something that's going to be a question to your provider, saying that you want to switch over to oil, to topical for whatever reason, which I think is actually a really good choice. And I always feel like taking, if you have a choice of doing something topically and not be putting more expectations and pressure on your liver to having to metabolize yet another substance like progesterone, is actually a really good idea. So that's going to be a question for your provider of what is the equivalent to topical. There was one other. Boots and Roses is saying, I just received your book today. I can't wait to start reading it. Thank you. I hope you like it. So we have questions about hair loss here. Jen, why don't we pop the question that came in? So Trudy is asking, does your book address hair loss? Is hair loss associated with hormones? And we have a similar question here. So I'm going to put them together into one. Hair loss in perimenopause, does insulin resistance contribute, and how to stop the hair loss? Okay, great questions. And the answer to this is that hair loss can be multifactorial. So to answer Trudy's question, yes, it can be due to hormones, but not only. And we've actually, this could be a really large topic. One of the things to think about hair loss is the fact that once you uncover what the root cause is, rather than be doing just topical stuff, I think I like doing topical stuff like, we have some recipes on our blog, like rosemary oil and putting in your hair, or fenugreek infusion and putting that. That's actually used in India. Fenugreek seeds infused into water and then using that as a wash for your hair. It's used by cancer patients who lost hair from leukemia in India, for example. So there's some really nice topical applications, but I always find that topical is a little bit like, when you have eczema and you're just applying cream on it, right? It goes away, but then the minute you stop the cream, the eczema returns, right? So we got to address the root cause of it. And with hair loss, it's the same thing. Chances are that if you uncover the root cause, then a lot of other things are going to improve. So we have a very comprehensive article on our blog, and it's on hormones with an S, hormonesbalance.com. Just enter the words hair loss, and you will see there's everything from vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So, for example, B12, vitamin biotin, right, deficiency. Another one is hormonal, absolutely. So it could be, for a lot of women, it's thyroid. And where you lose your hair actually can be indicative of what kind of hormonal imbalance you have. So if you're losing hair like right on top here, sometimes you see women who have like very, very thin hair right on the front of the head. That will be typically due to a metabolic issue, like what somebody was asking here about insulin resistance. So yes, insulin resistance can cause high testosterone levels. High testosterone levels in women cause hair loss in frontal head, but also growing hair on like a chin above, like a mustache for women, also on our nipples, and some women even their belly button. So that could be hormonal. But when you have a low thyroid function, then the hair loss tends to be more on the sides here and more like the whole head. Then, estrogen dominance can be also a cause of hair loss. That was one of my issues. And then in perimenopause, as you're going into perimenopause and menopause, you're absolutely right. For those of you who just feel like my hair is just not the same what it used to be, right? One of the things you will find is that as your estrogen keeps dropping, as you're going into perimenopause and menopause, estrogen has receptors in our hair follicles, and that's what makes them vibrant and strong. And so these follicles also have receptors for thyroid hormone, right? So that's why it could be one or the other. And oftentimes, as we're going into perimenopause and menopause, we actually both estrogen drops and our thyroid hormone drops too. So through testing, you can then determine of what are your estrogen levels. Can you correct it? Absolutely. I mean, your thyroid function, you can totally correct it. If it's a Hashimoto's, if you have low thyroid function because of Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition, then you need to address the autoimmune component, which is the Hashimoto's component, and not the thyroid itself, right? And that's another larger conversation. But if you are having hair loss because of low estrogen levels, then correcting estrogen might be helpful. And you can start off with something more natural ways, such as, for example, doing food, like incorporating 2 tablespoons of flaxseed every day to your smoothies, or just blending it up and having those 2 tablespoons in a glass of water, just chuck it down. Great source of fiber as well to get your bowels to move. And, for good hormonal balance, we want to have a bowel movement every day. Excuse me. And then the other thing is you can also look into herbs. So there's a number of herbs that contain what we call phytoestrogens, that are very gentle, naturally occurring estrogens, in things like red clover, black cohosh, there's some in fenugreek, there is in dong quai, Angelica sinensis, and so there's a lot of different options that you can explore. We have a nice there's also in hops. So that's why with men who, by the way, just an interesting factoid here for you, hops also are slightly estrogenic, which is great for women in menopause, not so great for men. So if you see like men boobs, those are oftentimes men who drink a lot of beer. And those are actually men are just kind of like giving themselves a bit too much of estrogen. They end up getting men boobs. So kind of an interesting point there. And we also have like Norwegian spruce, Russian Siberian rhubarb is another one that can elevate estrogen levels. So you've got a lot of different options. We have a couple of nice products in our store containing some of those herbs. One is called Estrogen Boost, because that's what it does. Another one is Wise Women's Balance, that also helps women just very holistically improve and balance our hormonal landscape. So you have a few options. And if you prefer to do like single herbs and just like take it as a tincture, there's always, an option there as well. And Jen just posted the articles on Instagram. We can't post, but you guys can just go to hormonesbalance.com, our blog post, and then look at a hair loss article. So then the other causes of hair loss could be also heavy metals. It's not uncommon to have like high mercury levels, high, what's the other one that was, I did a whole call with Dr. Wendy Myers, and I'm forgetting right now what it was, but there's way of testing. So if you look at our blog as well, if you just look at toxicity testing, there is Dr. Myers has written an article for us, and you can look it up there. This hair analysis test is a good one to start off with. So there's so many different reasons for hair loss. That's why to give just one answer is impossible. But it's worthwhile looking into this, because clearly your hair shows that there is some kind of a deficiency that's going on, and that needs to be corrected. All right, what else do we have, Jen? Is taking bioidentical hormones hard on the liver? Not when you're doing it topically. This is the reason why I prefer, I personally recommend to do it topically rather than be taking that. When you say hormones, I mean, like thyroid, you cannot find it topical, right? So thyroid, like if you're on the thyroid replacement therapy, what it called thyroid meds, but really you're taking a thyroid replacement pill, then has to be that has to be done, through orally, right? And the liver is playing a big role in that. But when it comes to doing other things like progesterone, estrogen, DHEA, testosterone, all of them can be done topically, and they can be highly effective if you are getting that from a responsible company that makes things well. Okay, I had estrogen positive breast cancer 2 years ago. I've changed my lifestyle and now eat WFPB. I don't know what that means. How do I know if my estrogen is back to normal? I also have Hashimoto's. Well, Karen, you've got to test. And so it's really important for those of you who had breast cancer or any kind of estrogenic cancers. In fact, I just met a friend at a conference and made friends with her. And one of the things that it was really interesting to see is that she works with a holistic oncologist and does not get her hormones tested correctly. So one of the big things you want to consider is that you've got to test. And my favorite form of testing is definitely going to be Dutch urine testing, because it shows you, oh, I see a whole plant diet. That's great. That's a great start. When it comes to, when it comes to breast cancer, I've met too many women who say, my diet has always been clean. My lifestyle has always been good. I don't have that much stress in my life. Why did I have breast cancer, right? And so it's a complex issue, and it could be there's some things that we're doing that we're just not aware of. It could be genetics. It could be that you are just a very poor estrogen metabolizer. I know I am. And so this is the reason why I believe that when you have a history of estrogen positive breast cancer, but also if you have family history, like don't wait for cancer. Do it proactively. If you have a history of family cancers, estrogenic cancer, like the way I do, I don't want to wait till I get a breast cancer for me to wake up one day and say, I need to take care of myself. I'm doing it now because I know I'm a very, very high candidate for that. Like I often say in those calls, you probably heard me say that in my family, we have a joke that no woman after 50 still has a uterus. And I'm a total, my sister and I are both anomalies in that way because we still have our uteruses. So, so testing, two things really important. I mean, obviously like baseline stuff, like what is your level of vitamin D3, your inflammation markers, right? Your magnesium levels. But other than that, on a hormonal level, keeping also your blood sugar levels in check, right? Your A1C being below 50, right? And and your fasting glucose being below 90. But other than that is how you metabolize estrogen, which I talked about earlier in this call, using Dutch, and then also your progesterone to estrogen ratio. That's going to be really important. So, and then if you have Hashimoto's, then follow Dr. Isabella Wentz. She's got wonderful resources on managing Hashimoto's. Highly recommend that. And you don't want to have an autoimmune disease going into perimenopause where your hormones are going to be going crazy. And that craziness of hormones are creating a lot more stress on the body, a lot more inflammation. And when you have an autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's, a lot of times women either have a flare-up or this is where autoimmunity starts. So don't go down that pathway. Having a whole food, plant-based diet is a good start. But I would say, like, when you say plant-based, does it mean as a vegetarian? It's not a form of diet I recommend at all. Protein is gonna be the older we get, the more wonky our blood sugar levels begin to be. Protein, especially first thing in the morning, is paramount, and protein from plants are never gonna be the same. Yeah, for those people, like sometimes people push back with me and say, well, yeah, but I'm doing a protein-based like a pea protein shake, and I'm getting my protein that way. Pea protein is highly processed. You have to realize that. Having that versus having a whole chicken or a piece of steak is a completely different kind of protein, and your body's going to receive it very differently. And so I know also too many people who have developed pea and legume sensitivities after doing pea protein because, like I said, it's a highly, highly processed food. So those are some of the things you might want to consider. I just want to share with you guys one little quick story. Actually, this happened this past weekend. I've been at Visitor Central for the past month. I've been having friends coming and going, and now I just sent off one friend this morning and I'm done. I can prepare for my trip to Mexico. I'm going to Mexico for 6 months. I don't want to do another winter here in Colorado. So I'm leaving in early December. But what I was going to tell you is that I have a really good friend who was visiting, and we just had a really busy day, and we had like so many different scheduled for errands to run during the day, starting from early in the morning, that we ended up not having a proper breakfast. And if you know me well, or you have my cookbooks, you know that I advocate for a savory, protein high breakfast, right? So like the farmer's wife's breakfast, the fisherman's wife's breakfast, of a solid piece of protein, whatever it might be. It could be leftovers from last night. It could be just, chicken that you roasted 3 days ago. Who cares? Just a real protein, not a shake, real food, coupled with a bunch of vegetables, a bit of something starchy like, a piece of sweet potato or some lentils or, whatever it might be. And that's typically my breakfast too. I make breakfast as if it was dinner, right? And so we just didn't have the time. So there was a pumpkin bread I made for Thanksgiving, and so it's not even very sweet. It wasn't paleo, so it's got flour, right? And flour converts to sugar. I reduced the amount of sugar in that recipe by half. So so it was like literally maybe a quarter of a cup of maple syrup in a whole bread. And then I had a little bit of monk fruit, right? So I sweetened the rest with monk fruit. So you can't really taste the monk fruit, which is kind of fun, but it's still sweet, right? So really not a sugar bomb per se. But both of us, can you believe this? I just want to share this because it was so like, wow. By lunch, by about 11, 12 o'clock, my friend is getting like really antsy. And she's like, the bakery that we went to that's got gluten-free stuff, can we just go to the bakery? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go to the bakery. So we go to the bakery, and she's like, you can see she's all like amped up and getting really antsy. And I'm like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I think I'm getting like a hypoglycemic thing. And then she's like, her mood is off. Now she's like, I want everything in that bakery, but I know it's really bad for me. So I'm just going to have this one piece. And then she had it, and it made her sicker. And then for me, we got home. We went to have some Vietnamese soup pho, but it was not significantly rich in protein, right? And so by the time we got home, we did a workout. So I've got this strength training program that I'm following. I don't want to skip. I recruited my friend. She's a real sport. And so we did it together. And I got like a massive hypoglycemic episode. where I started shaking on the inside as we're working out halfway through the workout, and I'm beginning, excuse me, to feel shaky on the inside. My hands are beginning to sweat, and I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And so I am 100% sure that the reason behind, sorry, let me just set up my camera correctly. There is something going on here. The reason behind both, Jen, can we remove the thing at the bottom there, the question? The reason why we both felt so off is because we messed up on our breakfast. We messed up because we had flour, we had something slightly sugary, and how many people, in the United States have something sweet for breakfast, right? Whether it's, even bagel. I mean, it's just all flour, or whether it's toast, right, with jam on top, and so on and so forth. So you know where I'm going with this. And so one of the big things that I really want to emphasize by sharing the story with you is that, and then like anxiety starts coming up, right? And then you could see my friend's desire for having more sugar in a day, right? But she was like, I gotta go to the bakery, take me to the bakery, right? And so totally all of that would have been completely is avoidable. And we never had an episode like that. And she was here for a week, and I've known her for years, that we had to be like, I end up with a hypoglycemic episode, and she ends up being totally fixated on getting a sugar fix. So let's see. Somebody's saying eggs for breakfast. Yeah, let's see if you can tolerate eggs. My cookbooks don't actually use eggs because I have found that about 50 to 70% of people cannot do eggs. So if you do the elimination diet, then you take out eggs and then you reintroduce eggs and you see whether they agree with you or they don't. I cannot do eggs, too many of them. I can do like 2 to 4 a week. That is about my limit. And so you've got to know where you are with that. Okay. Let me see. Oops. Let me see. I'm back here, you guys. I had a call coming in. I'm just gonna scroll through the questions on here. Does your new book cover these topics you are addressing today? Yeah, so my second book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, the brown book right over there, is covering everything about estrogen dominance: periods, hot flashes, fibroids, breast issues. Yes, so hair loss, no, because hair loss, like I said, is so multifactorial. I could just write a book on hair loss. This is another common question we get a lot, so let me address that. Boots and Roses is asking, also, before we start any of your supplements, should I get tested first? You can. You don't have to, though. So, if you have the funds for it and you have a great practitioner, why not? Especially like zinc, magnesium, your blood sugar levels, and so that's a really nice, present for yourself in the new year, end of the year. Asking, for a little present at the end of the year to get tested for things like that. Yes, you can. But if you, for example, you have diagnosis, you have blood sugar issues, problems, right? You already know your blood sugar levels are high, and you're changing your diet and you're adding some supplements, or you're having fibroids, you've already been diagnosed, right? Then you just take the supplement. So there's certain baseline supplements that, I think almost everyone is deficient and is not going to hurt you taking. B complex is one of them. That's in our store. It's called B Maximus, and it's got 7 different types of vitamin Bs. Your magnesium is going to be a wonderful baseline as well. Most women are deficient, no matter what you do. Let me just say that. And we have different types of magnesium in our store, so you can check it out. Zinc is another one. Unless you love eating oysters, which most people don't, then you're not getting enough zinc, and that's going to be super important for progesterone production, but also your overall immune system and integrity of your gut health, your intestinal lining. So zinc is another one. Vitamin C is another one. Most people are highly deficient. We have 2 types of vitamin C in our store. Vitamin C Complete is, by the way, we are just about to release, I think it starts on the 3rd of December, for the entire month of December, we are giving away our vitamin C complete, which is a food-derived vitamin C. So with a purchase, I think if you buy anything above $97 and also get free shipping with that, you get so just wait for a couple more days. Don't buy anything for the next 2 days. And then you can get that from us, a vitamin C complete food derived, which is another great one to take on a regular basis. Those are things that I take daily because I know no matter how varied and committed you are to really clean, good diet, food is just not the same what it used to be. So, okay, Jen, why don't we just take another question from Facebook? Kat is saying, I'm in the UK, follow your page, really interested in your products, especially progesterone. Wonder if there's a way of getting the product shipped to the UK. So, Kat, we are working on international shipping. It's gonna be so we're gonna do Canada first. Once we launch that, then hopefully by March or April, we can start shipping to the UK and Australia. So it's in the works. But the progesterone, I don't think we're gonna be. Every country has different regulations. I haven't looked at UK yet. Like to Canada, for example, we cannot ship progesterone because all hormones are prescription only. So you might just wanna look at how we formulated our product, our progesterone oil and cream, and see whether you can find something similar to that in UK. I think that would be my best recommendation. Okay, next, something else. What do I think about celery juice? I think that's I think that itself is kind of a false premise. It's the question is, what else are you doing, right? It's like celery juice, drinking it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach while doing, like, what else are you doing, right? And so are you having a varied diet full of colors, anti-inflammatory, a lot of variety? Are you changing and rotating your food around? That's what really matters. I think there is this whole phenomenon on drinking that celery juice, which by the way is very high in oxalates, FYI. A lot of people develop pains and aches related to oxalates, and while not doing a lot of other changes. So that in itself, I don't think it's a good idea. All right, let's do another question. 65 and gained. Rebecca saying, I'm 65 and gained 35 pounds this year. No weight issues prior. Stress and bloating and fatigue. Where to start? Yeah. So Rebecca, get one of my books. I think that's a really great starting point to reevaluate your diet. One of the things that is good to remember that as you enter menopause, and even for some women it's even much earlier in perimenopause, there's going to be so many changes that start happening hormonally speaking. Your estrogen going down, your blood sugar levels going up, right? Suddenly belly fat showing up like you've never had before. We're much more prone to being inflamed a lot more, right? So we're going to honor all of those changes, and you just have to work a little harder on putting your body back into a state of balance. And this is really what is happening. And so I just want to assure you, Rebecca, it's very normal for people to be like, nothing has changed. I'm still eating the same food. I'm exercising the same amount. My stress isn't all that different. I'm living in the same place. I'm married to the same person for the past 30 years, happily, right? And nothing is changing. Nothing has changed, except my weight. And so, a few things, just starting off with an anti-inflammatory diet, getting your sugar intake under control. We become a lot more sensitive to sugar. If you scroll through our feed on Facebook or Instagram, there is so much work that we have done before Black Friday kicked in on sugar, and just how sensitive we become to sugar as we age. And we're going to honor that. There's just nothing you can do about it except be very mindful. Like, look at my friend and I, right? Like, and we even joked about it. It's like in our 20s or 30s, we used to have like Pop-Tarts for breakfast, all sorts of, French pastries, right? And a coffee, which is another thing that jacks up your blood sugar levels. And we were perfectly fine. And now we are like both a rack, right? And so my friend is 46 and I'm 50, about to be 51, just in about a month or so. So, so blood sugar levels, inflammation by going in an anti-inflammatory diet, also checking your thyroid. That's another thing. If you suddenly have like a lot of like 35 pounds in a year, it's quite a bit of weight, Rebecca. One thing would be good to do is to test your thyroid and not just your TSH numbers, but you are then looking at, you're going to look at the antibodies. If you look at some of our articles about thyroid testing on our Hormones Balance website, I explain there's five different markers that you want to measure when it comes to thyroid. And a lot of times low thyroid function starts, like the thyroid starts acting up when we enter menopause. There's like 3 major reasons when thyroid starts acting up. The first one is for women postpartum, so after having a baby, huge stressor. Number 2 is any kind of humongous life stressor. Number 3 is going into menopause. So a good idea to start off there. Sarah-san is asking, I've just ordered some products on your website. Now I'm watching you speak. I'm wondering if I purchased the right products. Why don't you send us an email to support@hormonesbalance.com. We have a wonderful team who's very knowledgeable, Jen and Dr. Stephanie, who's a naturopathic doctor, and they will help you figure out whether this is what you need. When does avocado make me feel gassy? You know, we all have food sensitivities. In fact, I started this call by talking about chaseberry. You guys were asking about. You know, not everyone can even do chaseberry. Here's the fascinating thing: for one person, food is medicine. For another person, the same food is their poison, right? And with herbs is the same thing. As an herbalist, I can tell you that right now that, you know, chaseberry, as wonderful as it can be, some people will say they cannot live without their chaseberry, right? Because it helps them boost their progesterone levels. Awesome. I can't do it. What happens is I get mid-cycle spotting, my ovaries start throbbing, and I try different doses and different, from pills to tinctures, and the cleanest products I could find just wasn't working. So it's something that you need to just honor, that, you know, avocado just doesn't agree with you. The other thing is, for example, more and more people, as we switch out of dairy, a lot of people are going to like almonds and coconut, and then like almond, then they do almond milk and almonds as snacks, and almond butter and almond, you know, whatever, right? Almond creamer. And the next thing you know, that they are sensitive to almonds. So also another thing, you guys, a little pointer, a pro tip here for you. Always remember to rotate your food. So for example, if you're doing milk alternatives, right? If you're not doing dairy, but you want like a creamer in your coffee or tea, then you might want to consider rotating it. Like one time buy cashew milk, another one oat milk, another time coconut milk, another time macadamia milk, which by the way is super tasty. You know, another time, what other milks are there? Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing something. Flexi. Oh, flex milk. That's another one that's available called flex milk. Pretty cool. So always rotate your food. Michelle is saying, I also can't do eggs, so many breakfasts call for eggs. That's true. This is the reason why in my cookbooks, both of them, this one, this one, this one, this is my first cookbook. You know, a lot of the breakfasts are savory, and they're all without eggs, because I know it's no brainer to do a lot of recipes with eggs to do protein in the morning, right? The question is like, try to take the eggs out, and then becomes a real challenge to develop recipes for breakfast. Kim is saying, I just had a myectomy. What diet is good for fibroids? So get my cookbook, this one, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance. There's a whole chapter there on fibroids. You basically want a diet and a supplement protocol that's addressing estrogen dominance. And that's what the book is. The whole book is just about that. If you just learn you have pre-diabetes, family hereditary, and already past menopause, where do I start with the estrogen dominance program? So first of all, I want to say great that you're addressing it proactively and not waiting to have a full-on diabetes. And always remember that we have a family genetics, you know, or I want to say like a predisposition to having a condition, but it is your lifestyle and dietary choices that really either activate that gene or suppress it, right, from expressing. So it's always it's good to remember that I can also, because it kind of like, we don't want to fall into like the victim mentality of like, oh, Hashimoto's runs in my family. Everybody has it. Breast cancer runs in my family, because it kind of puts you in a position of helplessness, like, it's just how it is. I can't avoid it. Yes, you can. My mother has Hashimoto's and I don't. A lot of women in my family have lost their uterus. I still have my uterus and plan to hold on to it. So there's a lot of things you can do to overcome things. So where do you start? You start with your diet. You'd start off with especially focusing on savory breakfast. They're going to set you up for success. You're not going to crave sugar the rest of the day. You want to be looking at amount of protein you digest, you're consuming. Anti-inflammatory diet that's free of dairy, soy, corn, gluten, and then also adding a couple of supplements that help you upregulate your insulin receptors for clearing out the blood sugar, glucose out of your bloodstream. And we have like a really nice supplement in our store called Glucomaximus that can help you with that. Just started getting my migraines around my cycle at 40. Any advice? Yes. So it could be because of around my cycle. Yeah. So that could be because of either dropping estrogen or progesterone. And so correcting those. So we talked about a lot on this call how to correct your progesterone. So you can use either chasteberry or progesterone. If that doesn't solve it, then looking into addressing estrogen, dropping estrogen. You can do that through Estra Boost in our store. If that doesn't work for you, then you can also look into Wise Women's Balance, another product we have that doesn't work. Work with a practitioner on topical estrogen. The other thing, you guys, that for those of you who are suffering with migraines, we have a wonderful product in our store. We just introduced it a few months ago called Brainy Mag. So like Brainy, anything for your brain, and not only for cognitive functions, brain fog, migraines, but also like during the day, it just helps your whole cognitive function. It's made of magnesium threonate, which is the only form of magnesium that penetrates your blood-brain barrier. But also the other cool thing is that at night when you take it, if you cannot sleep at night, if you're experiencing like a lot of chatter in your brain, it calms your brain down, right? So it doesn't make you sleepy, but it just calms it down, which is kind of an awesome thing. So make Brainy Mag if you're suffering from these sort of things. Would the books be helpful for 20-year-old? Yes, they would be. As a young adult already, right? Okay. Any other questions, Jen, that we have? Should we use topical progesterone every day of the cycle or take a break at menstruation? Also, will chasteberry help symptoms if in perimenopause hormones are low? Yeah. So, Emmy, we have that actually on our website on Hormones Balance. So just read up a little bit about it. The short answer is that you can. There is a whole article that we have. Jen, maybe we can post that, the progesterone article, when, how, what, and it explains there. So if you are in perimenopause and you don't want to pretend to have a period, meaning that you don't plan to get pregnant, then what you can do is you can take 3 weeks, use progesterone, and then 5 days from the first day of your period. So from day 1 to day 5, take a break, right? And then from day 6 onwards until you get your period, you go back on progesterone. For those of you who want to pretend to have a cycle because you maybe plan to have a late pregnancy, then doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off is the way to go. Chasteberry will help symptoms. Yeah, it can if you tolerate chasteberry. And again, it's like kind of depends on my individuality. So that might be something to consider. But everyone is a little different. Some women don't want to do hormones right away, but prefer an herb. So this is the reason why we offer chasteberry in our store. And in other women, I tried it, doesn't work. I want to give me the give me the hormone, and then that's when it becomes. That's why we have oil and cream in our store. Can you give us ideas for protein breakfast? Yeah. So Katie's asking. So let me give you some ideas here from the cookbook. First of all, on a very practical level, I would say doing dinner leftovers is a really great starting point. Typically a lot of us will do like something with protein for dinner, right? So like you roasted a chicken or you made a stew or whatever, right? So using that protein the following day might be a really great idea. Just change around the vegetables that you do. Like, for example, one of the things that I did today, for instance, was I put it in, I had some chicken, roasted chicken from last night. And then I took cauliflower. I steamed it for about 20 minutes. I went to take a shower. It was steaming for 20 minutes. Then I use a really nice dressing that is like full of phytoestrogen, phytonutrients. Like it's a really nice dressing with like basil and cilantro and parsley and olive oil, lemon juice, right? Drizzle that on top. And then while I was also showering, I put some squash in my little toaster oven, and like within 15 minutes that was done. And that's a really wonderful way of like having a little bit of starch in it as well. And I had a sauerkraut on the side. So this is just an example. It doesn't have to be fancy, you guys. In fact, for me, most of my breakfast is called whatever is left over in my fridge. I will do that for breakfast. I also just refrosted from my good friends from Wild Pastures. If you want like directly to your doors meat that is like half the price of retail, then Wild Pastures is a really wonderful place to shop and get your meat directly delivered to your door. So I just been defrosting this morning some beef, ground beef, and I'm gonna make beef patties, for like 3 days of breakfast coming up, right? So talking about the cookbook, let me just show you maybe a couple of recipes also as examples. So for instance, one of them is the one that's very popular is called the farmer's wife's breakfast. So making these patties, right? And then a bit of sauerkraut, a bit of pomegranate. I did a whole video, you guys, about pomegranate, like how amazing it is for hormones. Arugula, which just helps your liver, a bit of avocado for fats, some protein, right? And that's it. Like there's not much cooking involved really. You're just kind of assembling it together. Another one, I call it the fisherman's breakfast. So that's a toast with salmon. Oops, here. With some salmon, avocado, pudding. You can put kimchi. You can put sauerkraut on top. And it's got like these little things that you see here. It's sprouts, broccoli sprouts. Another one is we have sweet potato, quinoa patties. They're pretty high in protein. Another example is a Southwest breakfast bowl. Again, like this takes 45 minutes to put together. And even if we have, let's just say, savory breakfast, like a smoothie, there's going to be a green smoothie that doesn't have a lot of sugar in here. There's a bit of pineapple for bromelain, which is an enzyme that helps your digestion. But other than that, it's got a lot of other greens in here, like arugula, ginger, mint leaves, hemp hearts, almond milk, right? So again, you're talking about a savory breakfast with just a bit of a tiny bit of sweetener from the pineapple. So I hope this is helpful. All right. Jessica saying, I'm having opposite reactions to bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, progesterone. Soon as I take it, I get grumpy, depressed, and can't sleep. What does that mean? I feel bad also when I take Vitex and Black Cohosh also. So Jessica, there's a couple of things that could be happening. One of it is actually what a lot of people don't realize is that we actually convert progesterone to estrogen. For some women, it's more prevalent than others. And one thing you might want to consider is adding what's called aromatase inhibitor, which stops the conversion of progesterone into estrogens. A lot of the time when you feel like grumpy, depressed, and you can't sleep, that could be due to actually estrogen dominance. So maybe give it another shot by just doing an passion flower extract. And passion flower is basically your aromatase inhibitor that inhibits, the conversion from progesterone into estrogen. So that would be one thing I would consider. The other thing that some practitioners have an opinion, the reason why we the reason why we have a challenge with progesterone is for women who have candida. So see whether you have any symptoms or signs of candida. That could be another reason. Climato is asking, what about uterine polyps, estrogen dominance? Yes, the answer is yes. And in fact, the whole book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, if you follow the protocols, we've had women writing to us that the uterine polyps have been reversed. In fact, I used to have a woman working for me many, many years ago, and she didn't even follow my protocol to the T, to be honest. That's part of the reason why we end up not working together for very long, because I like to have a team of women working with me who really believe in this lifestyle, who actually live this stuff and not pretend, because then it, I don't think it's good for you. Like I'm sure you want to hear from my team who actually lived through this. And so this particular person wasn't like that. And but halfway through our contract, she said, I've got my OBGYN said that I should just remove my uterus because I'm done with babies. And I'm like, yeah, but the uterus is not just for having babies. It's a larger conversation. Why do you have uterine polyps in the first place? So she did quite a lot of stuff and followed the protocols that I teach, which is what you'll find in my cookbooks. And the uterine polyps actually went away, and she ended up saving her uterus. In fact, she wrote an article about it, so you can. It's on hormonesbalance.com. And if you just look for uterine polyps, that article should pop out. She wrote that story, and I published it. I'll do one more question, and then we have to start wrapping up. Angela is asking, 27 years here with progesterone in the 40s. Do you suggest wild yam cream? So just to be clear, wild yam on its own is not gonna do anything. It has to be modified in the lab to fit into a human progesterone receptor. So whoever sells you on a wild yam cream, like the way, what was they, Grace and Frankie in that hilarious series where Frankie starts dating a yam farmer and then makes yam cream, and they're all supposed to help with the libido and all that. That's all Hollywood, okay? That doesn't work. So just be careful. And if it does, for people who say that works on them, I can assure you that's all placebo. You've got to have like an actual progesterone cream that, yes, it could be derived from wild yams, but it needs to be specifically having a USP progesterone in the ingredients list. Okay. It's a quick question. Do you drink coffee? I don't drink coffee. And my body doesn't metabolize coffee very well, but I do drink other caffeinated drinks. I do black tea first thing in the morning. And then midday, what I'm drinking right here is a matcha latte. So I do caffeine. I just can't do coffee. Makes me anxious and angry. All right. Hey, you guys, I hope this was helpful. And you got some inspiration on some of the things you can tweak, and I always like to joke about it and say that it's bad for my business to say that because we are a supplement company, but I always say that you've got to start with your diet. You really do. Expecting supplements to reverse everything that's going on in your life is unfair, to be putting that pressure on yourself of just like popping a pill. And also the other thing is, be mindful of the mindset that you're here because you're most likely really interested in holistic healing, right? Natural ways of balancing your hormones. That's why you're here. If you didn't believe in this, you probably don't listen to me, right? So honor that, but also be mindful of the fact that make sure that you are not like substituting prescription drugs for supplement, because you're basically trading one pill for another. What's difficult is to change your diet. What's difficult is to go to bed early and have a really good sleep. What's hard is to commit to an exercise, a movement routine, right? Those are things that are hard to do. And most people don't want to do it because it's hard work. So instead we just go, hey, Magdalena, what's the one supplement I can take, right? And I'm not against supplements, obviously, because I make them and I take them on a daily basis. And I believe that actually make a difference. But it's in the context of changing your diet, supporting your nutritional needs of your body, which your body can't function without it, and having a really good sleep routine and having a movement routine, all of those things together, that's when the supplements really shine, and that's when the magic is created. So I just want to leave you with that. Don't trade one pill for another. Look at it, the food, sleep, and movement. Those are the three things you've got to, not right away. Like if you're just starting on this journey, it's all of that. It's like, oh my God, this is really overwhelming. So just one step at a time, determine what do you want to do first, right? And give yourself 3 months to maybe master the diet part. Then you move on to the next one. Be like, I want to fix my sleep. Okay, work on your sleep. We've got a lot of resources, by the way, for you about sleep. Not many for you of you have asked today about sleep, but we have. I wrote an article that took me 8 months to write called "How to Fix Sleep After 45," and and then working on your movement routine. And you see my posts maybe on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm like big time into strength training now. I'm totally on it, in it. I don't want to say the word addicted because it's got a negative connotation. I'm highly committed and I'm highly excited to do it. So, and I feel like my body has changed. I've actually lost a lot of weight. I'm like, I can see my muscles again, and you will see more of that in summer. Or when I'm on the beach in Mexico. How about that? All right, you guys, enough of blabbing around. Have a wonderful weekend going into so close to the weekend. Do something really nice and nurturing for yourself that really honors your body and what makes you feel really good. And I will see you soon in the space. Bye-bye.